In a quiet corner of Salem, Oregon, where oak-lined streets and red brick houses stand timeless against the seasons, Hannah Baker grew up believing family was everything. The eldest daughter of the Baker family, she was a young woman with soft brown curls and eyes that burned with quiet determination. From her teenage years, Hannah carried the weight of caring for her parents and her dreamy younger sister, Samantha. To Hannah, love for her family wasn't just words. It was action, sweat, and dreams set aside for the sake of those she held dear. Every morning, as dawn painted the sky in hazy pinks, Hannah left her modest apartment, driving her beat-up old car through fog-draped roads to the coffee shop where she worked as a barista. But her workday didn't end there. When the sun dipped below the horizon, she clocked in as a data entry clerk for a small company, scraping together extra cash to help her parents pay the mortgage on their two-story red brick house on Elm Street. That house wasn't just where her parents, Denise and Richard, lived, it was the heart of the family. It was where Hannah and Samantha had played in the backyard as kids, where she'd sat with her mom learning to knit on chilly winter nights. But it was also a burden. The monthly mortgage payments loomed like a boulder on Hannah's shoulders, crushing any thoughts of vacations or a new camera to chase her passion for photography. Beyond the mortgage, Hannah was the one who kept the house standing through life's storms. One freezing winter night, when the wind howled through the window cracks, her mother called in a panic. The roof was leaking, water flooding the living room and soaking her mom's cherished rug. Without hesitation, Hannah drove through a blinding snowstorm, the roads slick as ice, to climb onto the roof in the pitch-black dark. Her hands numb, nails digging into her palms, she patched the hole with an old tarp, fighting the biting cold. When she stumbled back inside, soaked and shivering, Denise enveloped her in a tearful hug. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered. "You're our rock." Those words warmed Hannah's heart like a fire, convincing her every sacrifice was worth it. But life wasn't always so tender. One crisp fall afternoon, as golden leaves blanketed the sidewalks, Hannah got a text from her dad. "Honey, your mom fell in the garden. Might have broken a bone." She dropped everything, abandoning her shift to race to the hospital. She sat by her mom's bedside all night, holding her hand as the doctor explained the upcoming surgery. The hospital bill hit like a punch to the gut, over $10,000. Without a word, Hannah drained her savings, money she'd scrimped for a photography course, to cover it. When Denise woke, she squeezed Hannah's hand weakly. "Hannah, you're my angel." Those words dulled the sting of her lost dream, making her believe once again that it was all worthwhile. Samantha, her younger sister, was a different story. At 25, she was stunning, with golden blonde hair and a smile that charmed everyone, but she lived like a breeze, never settling anywhere long. She flitted from job to job, bartender, travel blogger, YouTuber, none lasting more than a few months. Samantha leaned on her parents and Hannah to get by. One night, she called Hannah at 2 a.m., sobbing that her power had been cut off for unpaid bills. Hannah sighed, drove to her sister's place, and handed over cash to fix it. "Sis, I swear I'll pay you back," Samantha said, her eyes sparkling with tears. Hannah knew the promise was empty, but she helped anyway, believing it was her duty as the older sister. Hannah's life revolved around her family, an endless loop with no escape. Every weekend, she visited the red brick house, helping her mom sort through papers, check bills, and scan documents. Denise, hopeless with technology, would flash an awkward smile as she handed Hannah a messy stack of papers. "Can you take a look, sweetie?" she'd say, then slip out to tend her beloved orchids in the backyard. Hannah sat at the dining table, flipping through each sheet with the precision of an accountant. She didn't just review bills, she quietly paid the small ones, like water or internet, that her parents overlooked. She did it all with unshakable faith that families stuck together, that her devotion would be repaid with love and appreciation. But one fateful evening shook that faith to its core. After a grueling day of work, Hannah arrived at her parents' house as usual. While sorting through papers, she stumbled across an odd bill from the home insurance company, double the usual amount, with a note about emergency repairs for structural damage. Frowning, she called her mom in. "Mom, what's this? Repairs I didn't know about?" Denise fidgeted, glancing at her husband. Richard sighed. "Well, there was a crack in the second-floor wall last week. We called a contractor, didn't want to bother you." Hannah froze. Bother her? She'd fixed the roof, replaced plumbing, paid for yearly maintenance, and now they hired someone else without telling her? She swallowed her shock and asked, "Who's paying for this?" Her dad shrugged. "Samantha said she'd handle it." Hannah let out a hollow laugh. Samantha? The one who couldn't pay her phone bill? Driving home that night, a gnawing unease settled in her chest. For the first time, she wondered if her family truly saw what she did for them, or if they just saw her as a machine keeping everything running smoothly. But Hannah pushed the thought away, telling herself she was overthinking. Family was family. They needed her, and she wouldn't let them down. A few weeks later, another crisis struck. At 3 a.m., Samantha called, her voice trembling. "Sis, help me! My apartment got broken into. They took everything!" Hannah raced over, finding the doors smashed, belongings scattered. Samantha sat curled on the couch, face streaked with tears. Hannah called the police, helped file a report, and tried to comfort her sister. But after the cops left, Samantha confessed. "It wasn't a random break-in. I owe someone money. They probably did this to scare me." Hannah's jaw dropped. "Oh, who?" Samantha looked down. "A guy I met online. I borrowed money for video equipment, but couldn't pay it back." Blood pounded in Hannah's ears. She wanted to scream but bit her tongue. "How much?" Samantha whispered. 5,000. Silently, Hannah withdrew money from her emergency fund to settle the debt. Driving home, she said nothing, a growing void in her heart. The months that followed saw Hannah trapped in her cycle, working, paying bills, fixing the house, caring for her family. But each time she looked at the red brick house, its warmth faded. She began to see that everything she did, paying the mortgage, patching the roof, was taken for granted. Her parents said thank you, but the words felt more like habit than gratitude. Samantha floated through life, assuming her big sister would always clean up her messes. One late Saturday afternoon, Hannah was scanning documents at the dining table in her parents' red brick house on Elm Street, the familiar hum of routine settling around her. Her mother, Denise, stepped into the room, an awkward smile flickering across her face. "Hannah, honey, could you check these for me?" she said, handing over a messy stack of papers before hurrying back to her orchids in the backyard. Hannah flipped through the sheets as she always did, her fingers moving with practiced care. But this time, a strange premonition tugged at her gut. Buried in the pile was a thick cream-colored envelope, boldly labeled Estate Plan and Will. Her heart thudded. Not out of curiosity, but from a need to ensure everything was in order. With the caution of someone handling a forbidden secret, she opened the envelope. And when she reached the page detailing asset distribution, her heart shattered. Everything, every single thing was left to Samantha. The house, worth nearly $500,000, the $200,000 savings, the shiny new SUV, even her mother's cherished wedding ring worn for 40 years. Hannah's name appeared only once in a fleeting hollow line. "We love both our daughters." Love? The word had never felt so empty. She sat there, the paper trembling in her hands. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every dream she'd shelved, all erased by those cold, printed words. She heard her mother's light footsteps returning, the same gentle tread as always. Hannah looked up, clutching the will, her voice eerily calm, almost chilling. "Mom, is this real?" Denise froze, her eyes flickering with unease. "Hannah, it's..." And in that moment, like a spark igniting a powder keg, a new chapter began, one where Hannah would confront the brutal truth about her family and herself. Hannah sat motionless at the dining table in the red brick house, gripping the cream-colored envelope as if it were a ticking bomb. Afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, casting harsh shadows on the will's merciless words. Every asset her parents owned, the house, valued at nearly $500,000, the $200,000 nest egg, the gleaming SUV, even the sparkling wedding ring her mother had worn for 4 decades, was bequeathed to Samantha, her carefree younger sister. Hannah's name surfaced only in a single cursory line, like an afterthought. "We love both our daughters." Love? The word rang hollow, a cruel mockery of the life she'd poured into her family. Her chest tightened, as if an invisible hand were squeezing her heart. Memories flooded her mind, each one a fresh wound. Late nights, working extra shifts to cover the mortgage, driving through blizzards to deliver her mom's medicine. Sweltering summer days drenched in sweat as she replaced roof tiles. She'd given up her youth, her dreams, her chance at a life of her own, all to keep this house and this family from falling apart. And now she was reduced to a footnote, a stranger in the story of her own family. The soft sound of her mother's footsteps broke through her thoughts. Denise returned from the backyard, hands dusted with soil from her beloved orchids, a familiar smile on her lips. "Hannah, did you find the bill I needed?" she asked. oblivious to the heavy silence cloaking the room. Hannah didn't answer immediately. She stood slowly, still clutching the will, her gaze so piercing it stopped Denise in her tracks. "Mom," she said, her voice steady but sharp as a blade. "Is this real?" Denise's smile vanished as her eyes landed on the paper in Hannah's hand. "Hannah, honey," she stammered, her gaze darting away, searching for an escape. "It's just, it's only a draft, not final or anything." But the hesitation in her voice betrayed her. A chill ran down Hannah's spine. She flipped open the will, pointing to the asset distribution page. "A draft? Then why is everything, the house, the money, even your wedding ring, left to Samantha? What about me, Mom? What am I to this family?" The room fell silent, save for the faint whistle of wind through the window. Denise opened her mouth, but no words came. Just then, Hannah's father, Richard, stepped in from the living room, a steaming coffee mug in hand. He took in the scene and sighed, as if about to comment on a cloudy day. "Hannah, you don't need to make a big deal out of this. You're doing fine, aren't you?" "Samantha, she's still finding her way, you know that." Hannah let out a laugh, sharp and humorless. "Finding her way? Samantha's 30, Dad. She hops from job to job, lives off YouTube, and can't even pay her phone bill. And me? I've paid the mortgage for 3 years, fixed the roof, driven through storms to get Mom's meds. I'm the one who's kept this house standing dollar by dollar, brick by brick." Her voice rose, not out of anger, but from the weight of pain bottled up for too long, now bursting free. Richard set his mug down, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "That's not fair, Hannah. Samantha needs the support. You're strong. You've always managed on your own." His words hit like a slap. Strong? Was that why? Because she was strong, she didn't deserve recognition. Because she could manage, her sacrifices were expected, unremarkable. Hannah's grip tightened on the will, her knuckles whitening. She wanted to scream, to shatter something to make them feel her pain. But a memory flashed through her mind. At 22, when her parents faced financial ruin and the bank threatened to foreclose, Hannah had dropped out of her final college semester, working day and night to save the house. She remembered the night she signed the loan papers, alone in her tiny apartment, crying until her tears ran dry, knowing she'd just given up her dream of becoming a photographer. She'd done it all without complaint, believing family would always stand together. Now, that memory only made her feel foolish. She looked at her parents, her eyes stripped of warmth. "So because I'm strong, I don't need love, I don't need to be seen. I gave everything, and you repay me by writing me out of your lives." Her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from the strength of someone who just realized her worth had been trampled. Denise stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Hannah's, as if her touch could soothe the storm brewing inside her daughter. "Hannah, don't overthink this," she said softly. "I just wanted Samantha to feel secure. She's not like you." But Hannah yanked her hand away, her eyes cold as ice. "Secure? And what about me, the one who's kept this house standing, kept this whole family together for 10 years? Don't I deserve to feel secure?" No one answered. A heavy silence engulfed the room, thick and suffocating. Hannah set the will down on the table, her movements deliberate, like she was returning a declaration of war. She gave her parents one final look, her voice steady now, devoid of tremors. "Thank you for showing me where I really stand in this family." She turned, walked to the door, and stepped out without looking back. The autumn wind swept golden leaves across the yard, singing a mournful tune, but Hannah didn't cry. For the first time in years, she didn't feel pain. There was only a chilling void, as if every belief she'd clung to had crumbled to ash. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, as Hannah tried to focus on her work at the coffee shop, a call from Samantha shattered the fragile calm. "Sis, we need to talk." Samantha's voice quavered over the phone. Hannah sighed, reluctant but curious, and agreed to meet her sister at a small diner near her apartment. She hoped, maybe naively, that Samantha would apologize or at least offer an explanation. But when she arrived, Samantha sat there, eyes red-rimmed, not from remorse, but from panic. "Sis, I saw the will," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know they wrote it like that. But don't be mad. I need that stuff. You get that, right?" Hannah stared at her sister, feeling as if she were looking at a stranger. "Need it? Samantha, do you have any idea what I've done to keep that house? Do you know I dropped out of college, worked 2 jobs, paid every bill so Mom and Dad wouldn't lose everything? And you, what have you done besides wait for handouts?" Samantha looked down, but then her chin lifted, a spark of defiance in her eyes. You've always been the strong one, Hannah. Hannah, I'm not. Mom and Dad just wanted to help me. You don't need that stuff, do you? Her words poured gasoline on the fire raging in Hannah's heart. She stood, locking eyes with her sister. Don't need it? Samantha, I don't care about the money or the house. I needed respect to be seen. But clearly, in this family, I'm just a tool. She walked out of the diner, leaving Samantha speechless, her mouth agape, but silent. That night, Hannah lay in bed, staring at the dark ceiling. She replayed the years gone by, how she'd always put her family first. She'd believed love meant sacrifice, that blood ties were unbreakable. But now, she saw that true love wasn't giving everything without receiving in return. She didn't want to keep being the one who gave only to be forgotten. For the first time, she wondered, if she stopped being the family's anchor, how would they treat her? Days later, an unexpected incident pushed things further. Hannah received an email from the bank, notifying her that a large sum, over $3,000, had been withdrawn from the joint account she used to pay her parents' mortgage without her consent. The money had been transferred to an unfamiliar account. When she called her dad, he admitted, Samantha needed it to pay off a debt. I figured you wouldn't mind. Hannah was stunned. Wouldn't mind? They'd taken her hard-earned money, the money she'd scraped together through endless shifts, without even asking. She immediately froze the account, saying nothing more to her parents. That act was a silent proclamation. Hannah was done being used. Deep down, she felt a crack in her heart, one that could never be mended. The family she'd loved, for whom she'd sacrificed everything, was now a distant memory. Driving through Salem's familiar streets, she passed houses aglow with warmth and wondered if anyone else felt as adrift as she did. But then, a faint smile crossed her lips, not from forgiveness, but from the realization that she was about to embark on a new journey, one to reclaim herself. After walking away from the red brick house with the cold words of the will seared into her mind, Hannah entered a strange new world where silence became her sharpest weapon. No more driving through blizzards to deliver her mom's medicine, no more late nights poring over bills, and definitely no more dreams deferred for the sake of family. Hannah had spent a decade keeping the Baker family afloat, but now she chose to reserve her strength for herself. Yet her family, as if blind to the chasm that had opened between them, continued to see her as their endless lifeline. In the days following the will's revelation, Hannah threw herself into her work at the coffee shop. The grind of the espresso machine, the rich aroma of roasted beans, and brief chats with customers kept her mind from drifting to the cruel lines of the will. But every time her phone buzzed, she flinched, half expecting a call from her mom or dad, hoping for an apology or explanation. None came. 2 weeks passed without a single call or text. Their silence was a statement in itself. They saw no need to fix what they'd broken. Hannah told herself that if they had any conscience, they'd reach out. She waited, not out of hope, but to see if she truly mattered to them as much as she'd once believed. Then, one morning, as she stacked cups behind the counter, her phone lit up with a text from her dad, Richard. Hannah, the mortgage payment's due. Can you send it soon? Deadline's Friday. She froze, her hand tightening around a ceramic mug until she thought it might crack. No apology. No check-in to see if she was okay after everything. Just a brazen demand as if she were still the family's ATM, ready to dispense cash on command. Staring at the message, Hannah felt her blood turn to ice. She sank into a chair behind the counter, memories flooding back, paying bills, fixing the roof, taking out loans to save the house. But this time, she refused to drown in the pain. She typed a reply, each word sharp and frigid. I think Samantha can handle it. The house is hers now, right? She hit send, set the phone down, and didn't wait for a response. 10 minutes later, Hannah's phone lit up again. A text from her mother, Denise. Hannah, don't do this. We need to talk. The message carried no trace of remorse, only a desperate attempt to drag her back into her familiar role, the family's problem solver. Hannah stared at the screen but didn't respond. She stood, resumed wiping down the coffee shop counter, but inside, a ruthless clarity was taking shape. She'd spent her life believing her sacrifices would be acknowledged, that her family would cherish her. She was wrong. And now, she refused to keep patching the cracks her family had created, but her family didn't stop. On a rainy evening, as Hannah sat in her small apartment, reading a photography book to calm her mind, the doorbell rang. She frowned. No one was expected at this hour. Opening the door, she found Samantha standing there, her coat soaked, hair plastered to her face, eyes red as if she'd been crying. Sis, I need to talk, Samantha said, her voice trembling. Hannah crossed her arms, not inviting her in. Go ahead, she replied, her tone flat, devoid of warmth. Samantha took a deep breath as if summoning courage. Sis, I know the will hurt you, but mom and dad didn't mean it like that. They just thought, I need more help than you. You're always so strong. You don't need that stuff, right? Hannah felt a surge of anger but held it back, letting it smolder. Don't need it? Samantha, do you have any idea what I've done for this family? I dropped out of college, worked 2 jobs, paid every bill to keep that house. I bailed you out of debt, fixed the house for mom and dad, and never asked for anything. And you? What have you done besides waiting for everything to be handed to you? Samantha looked down, but then her eyes flicked up, a glint of defiance in them. You don't get it, Hannah. I'm not strong like you. I need them. You've always been fine on your own. Her words were a final dagger. Hannah stepped closer, locking eyes with her sister. Fine on my own? Samantha, I'm fine because I had no choice. I gave up everything to hold this family together, and you all repaid me by erasing me from your lives. I'm not a superhero. I'm just someone who was forced to be strong. She paused, her voice dropping, sharp as a blade. If you think you deserve everything you've been given, prove it. Start by paying the mortgage. Samantha opened her mouth, but no words came. Hannah shut the door, leaving her sister standing in the rain. She leaned against the door, eyes closed, feeling her heartbeat slow. For the first time, she felt no guilt for saying no. She wasn't sad, wasn't angry. There was only a cold, clear resolve. She was done being the family's savior, but her family wasn't ready to let go. A week later, while Hannah checked emails at the coffee shop, a bank notification popped up, a $2,900 transfer request from the joint account, no explanation attached. She called her mom immediately, her voice calm but firm. Mom, what's this? Denise stammered. Well, I thought you wouldn't mind. Samantha said she needed money to pay off a debt, and I didn't know what else to do. Hannah let out a dry laugh. Wouldn't mind? You took my money I worked my ass off for without even asking? What do you think I am? A bottomless wallet. Denise rushed to explain. Hannah, don't say that. I just wanted to help your sister. She's in trouble. But Hannah cut her off. Samantha's trouble isn't my problem. If you want to help, use your own money. Or ask Samantha, the one inheriting everything. She hung up, instantly rejecting the transfer request. Her phone rang immediately. Her mom again. She let it ring 4 times, then declined. A text followed. Hannah, I know you saw it. Why'd you reject it? We're family. Hannah read it, then typed back. Family doesn't mean using each other. Ask Samantha. She set the phone down, feeling as if a 1,000-pound weight had lifted from her chest. But her family wasn't so easily deterred. A few days later, Lorraine, an old neighbor, called. Hannah, your mom stopped by my place. She looked so worried, talking about the bank foreclosing on the house. Do you know what's going on? Hannah gave a faint smile, unsurprised. Lorraine, I don't know, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. Samantha's in charge now, right? Lorraine hesitated, then sighed. I don't want to meddle, but I feel for you, honey. You were always the one keeping things together. Her words stirred a pang in Hannah's heart, but she brushed it aside. She didn't want pity. She'd given too much, and now it was time to take back control. Then, an unexpected event pushed things to a breaking point. One evening, as Hannah tidied her apartment, she got a text from an unfamiliar number. Hannah, it's Ben, old classmate. I'm in real estate now. Heard your parents' house is in trouble with the bank. They contacted my firm about a quick sale. You okay? Hannah's breath caught. Selling the house? It had only been weeks since she'd stopped helping, and they were already desperate enough to sell the home she'd fought to save. She called Ben, struggling to keep her voice steady. Ben, what's going on? He sighed. The bank sent a foreclosure notice for 3 missed payments. Your parents want to sell before they lose it, but the house needs major repairs, leaky roof, faulty wiring. They can't afford it, and I heard Samantha's trying to get a loan to save it, but no one's lending to her. Hannah fell silent, picturing Samantha with her carefree smile and empty promises, scrambling for money. Part of her wanted to laugh, but another part just felt exhausted. Thanks for letting me know, Ben, she said, but it's not my problem anymore. Ben paused. Hannah, I shouldn't say this, but you were the only one keeping that house afloat. If you don't step in, I'm afraid they'll lose everything. Hannah's smile was unwavering. They chose who gets everything, Ben. Now they have to live with it. She hung up, feeling as if she'd closed a door for good. That night, Hannah sat by her apartment window, watching raindrops patter against the glass. She wasn't sad, wasn't angry, wasn't even relieved. There was only a fresh, unyielding clarity. She was no longer the one to mend her family's cracks. She'd stepped out of that role, and no matter how hard her family tried to pull her back, she wouldn't return. But deep down, she knew they wouldn't give up easily. And when they came back, because she was certain they would, she'd be ready, not to save them, but to protect herself. Hannah had navigated the cold, silent days that followed, learning to reject her role as the Baker family's savior. But her family, as if unable to accept her transformation, refused to let go. They'd tried demands, persuasion, and guilt-tripping, but when those failed, they took a path Hannah never could have anticipated, publicly shaming her before the world. In this phase, Hannah faced not just her family's betrayal, but the need to stand up, expose the truth, and reclaim her voice in a battle with no room for compromise. It all began on a Saturday morning as Hannah sipped coffee in her cozy apartment, scrolling through her phone for news. A Facebook notification stopped her cold. Her mother, Denise, had posted something new. Hannah rarely used social media, but a sinking feeling made her click. The post loaded, paired with a photo of the red brick house on Elm Street, now looking worn, its roof tiles darkened, its fence peeling. The caption cut like a knife. It breaks my heart when my own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning her aging parents in their time of need after everything we sacrificed for her. The post had over 80 shares, dozens of comments offering sympathy, comfort, and harsh judgments about the ungrateful daughter no one knew was Hannah. She sat frozen, her coffee growing cold in her hands. She'd braced herself for more demands, more accusations, but dragging her name through the mud on social media. It was a low blow she hadn't seen coming. She scrolled through the comments. So sad when kids treat their parents like this. She must be one of those selfish types, praying for your family to get through this. Each word was a stone hurled at her pride, but the real pain came from the lies. They didn't mention the 3 years she'd paid the mortgage, the roof she'd fixed, or the dreams she'd buried to keep the family afloat. They'd painted her as a heartless daughter who ditched her frail parents. It didn't stop there. Hannah discovered her father, Richard, had posted too. We thought Hannah loved her family, but when we needed her most, she walked away without a word. The house is about to be foreclosed, and she acts like nothing's wrong. His post was shorter, but each word pierced her heart like a needle. Then came Samantha, her carefree sister, joining the fray with a sarcastic jab. Some people are only kind when they're on top, looking down. But when family asks them to step up, they choose silence. That's today's version of strong, I guess. Hannah gripped her phone, knuckles white. She wasn't angry, wasn't shocked, just bone-tired. When direct words couldn't sway her, they'd turned to public opinion to pressure her. They knew she'd always been the peacemaker, the one who'd sacrifice anything to avoid conflict. But this time, they'd miscalculated. Hannah was no longer the girl who stayed quiet to save face for her family. She'd learned that silence wasn't consent. It was a cage that had trapped her for too long. That night, Hannah sat at her laptop, the screen's glow illuminating her face, her eyes blazing with resolve. She opened Facebook, a platform she rarely touched, and began drafting a post. No flair, no fancy design, just the truth. She uploaded a photo of the will, where Samantha's name stood alone as the sole heir, while Hannah's appeared only in a throwaway line. She attached screenshots of mortgage payments, utility bills, insurance, all in her name, proof of the years she'd poured sweat and money into keeping the red brick house standing. Finally, she included a screenshot of her mom's text demanding $20,900 to save the house, with no apology or explanation. She ended the post with a single cutting line. My silence wasn't agreement. I was waiting for the right moment to tell the truth. That moment is now. She hit post, her heart pounding. This wasn't just a post, it was her manifesto, the moment she reclaimed her voice after years of being overlooked. She closed her laptop, ignoring the urge to check for reactions, and went to bed with a strange sense of lightness. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of judgment. She'd spoken her truth, and that was enough. By morning, her phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, co-workers, even long-lost acquaintances sent messages and called, expressing shock and support. Hannah, you did all that? Unbelievable, an old classmate wrote. You're the kindest person I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that, a coworker texted. Her post spread like wildfire, not because it was sensational, but because it was raw and real. People who knew the Bakers chimed in. I always thought Samantha was kind of reckless. Now it makes sense, a neighbor commented. No one should be taken advantage of, especially not by their own family, another wrote. Each message was a brick rebuilding Hannah's sense of worth, but she didn't bask in the validation. She knew the fight wasn't over. 2 days later, a notification confirmed it. Her mom had deleted all her posts. Her dad deactivated his Facebook account. Samantha changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, a classic move when she lost control. But what caught Hannah's attention was a midnight text from Samantha. "Sis, why'd you do that? You trying to make the whole world hate me? You know I didn't mean for this." Hannah read it, feeling like she was staring into a fractured mirror. Samantha didn't apologize or own her mistakes. She just deflected, fishing for sympathy. Hannah replied, "You didn't mean it, but you stood by while mom and dad erased me. Now I'm just doing what you all did, letting the truth speak." She sent it and blocked Samantha's number. The drama didn't end there. One afternoon, while Hannah was teaching her photography class at the Community Arts Center, an older woman walked in, introducing herself as Margaret, a friend of her mom's. She looked at Hannah with a mix of pity and reproach. "Hannah, I saw your post. I get that you're hurt, but airing family laundry like this, aren't you ashamed? Your mom's been crying nonstop. She says you've ruined the family's reputation." Hannah smiled thinly, unshaken. "Margaret, if my mom's crying, ask her why she didn't cry when she left me out of the will. If the family's reputation is ruined, it's because they lied first. I just told the truth." Margaret left without another word, but the encounter made Hannah realize her family was rallying the community to pressure her. Unable to confront her directly, they weaponized public opinion, using outsiders to guilt her into submission. But Hannah was no longer the pliable girl she'd once been. She pressed on with her work, her life, refusing to let the criticisms drag her back into the fray. A few days later, an unexpected development shook things up. Hannah received an email from a local legal aid organization where she'd volunteered during college. They were investigating cases of unfair inheritance, and her viral post had caught their attention. A lawyer offered to meet and discuss whether she wanted to pursue legal action against her parents' will. Hannah paused to consider. She didn't care about money or property. She wanted fairness. But the idea of a lawsuit gave her pause. It would be a long, messy ordeal, reopening old wounds and potentially branding her as the truly ungrateful daughter. She declined the meeting, but kept the lawyer's contact, saying she'd think it over if needed. Meanwhile, Hannah got word from Ben, her old classmate, turned real estate agent. "Hannah, your parents just dropped the house price by 30 grand. Still no buyers. Samantha's trying to get a loan from some sketchy lender, but they turned her down. She's got no steady income." Hannah wasn't surprised. The red brick house, once a symbol of family, now mirrored the truth. Without her, it was crumbling. She felt no satisfaction, no sorrow, just a strange relief, as if she'd severed the last tether binding her to the past. That night, Hannah sat by her window, watching streetlights blur through the rain. She opened her laptop, revisiting her post, now shared hundreds of times. She didn't need her family's apologies or groveling, she just needed them to stop, and at last they had. But deep down, she knew this wasn't the end. Her family would come back when desperation tightened its grip, when the house faced foreclosure for real. And when that day came, Hannah would be ready, not to rescue them, but to safeguard the peace she'd fought so hard to claim. After her post exposing the truth blazed across social media, the Baker family fell silent. No more pleading texts, no more accusatory posts, no more attempts to pull her back into the role of family savior. The cold words of the will, the bills bearing her name, and her family's betrayal were now a closed chapter. For the first time, Hannah felt the weight of her family lift from her shoulders. She stepped into a new phase, freedom and rebirth, where she learned to live for herself, rebuilding her life from the fragments her family had left behind. In the days following the online firestorm, Hannah felt a quiet transformation within. Each morning, she woke without the jolt of bill alerts or messages from her parents. She flung open her apartment's small window, breathing in Salem's crisp air, and smiled as sunlight filtered through the oak trees. She began carving out time for things she'd shelved for her family. First, she enrolled in a video editing course at the local arts center, a dream she'd buried to pay the red brick house's mortgage. Evenings spent at her screen, learning to splice frames, felt like rediscovering a lost piece of herself. But what truly reignited her joy was the photography class she taught for high schoolers at the arts center. The kids' sparkling eyes as they held cameras for the first time, the way they angled shots to capture a falling leaf or a ray of light through a window, reminded Hannah why she'd once loved photography. It let her see the world on her terms, unbound by anyone's expectations. One afternoon, a shy student showed her a photo of a leaf-strewn path. Hannah smiled. "What do you see in this?" she asked. The kid hesitated. Sad, but kind of beautiful, like falls saying goodbye. Hannah nodded, warmth spreading through her. Exactly. Every photo's a story, and you're the one telling it. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just teaching photography, she was helping them find their voices, something she'd only recently reclaimed through her own pain. Hannah's life began to find its rhythm. She started taking evening walks, strolling through Salem's quiet streets with acoustic music humming in her earbuds. She baked on weekends, experimenting with new recipes, and posted photos on Instagram without fear of being called fake. She made new friends in her video class, people who didn't know her as Hannah, the Baker family's backbone. To them, she was just Hannah, an artsy, funny woman always up for sharing a coffee. For the first time, she was herself, undefined by family obligations. While Hannah rediscovered her light, the red brick house on Elm Street showed its cracks. One morning, Marcus, her real estate friend, texted her, "Hannah, your parents' house is listed for $390K, but no takers. The roof's leaking, wiring's shot, and the fence is basically toast. They can't afford repairs." Hannah read the message, unsurprised. No one was there to fix the roof at midnight, replace the water heater, or call the electrician. The house, once the heart of the family, now laid bare the truth. Without Hannah, it couldn't stand. She replied simply, "Thanks for the heads up, Marcus. Not my deal anymore." A few days later, Lorraine, a longtime neighbor of the Baker family, called. "Hannah, I just wanted to check in," she said. "But I've seen Samantha move back in with your parents. She doesn't look happy, always rushing around, doing errands, buying groceries, paying bills. They seem to be struggling hard." Hannah listened, her hand wrapped around a still warm coffee mug. In the past, those words would have twisted her heart with worry. She would have jumped in her car, sped to the house, and found a way to fix everything. But now, she just shrugged. "Thanks, Lorraine," she said. "Maybe Samantha needs to face the things she used to ignore." She hung up, took a sip of coffee, and went back to editing her video. For the first time, she felt no urge to repair someone else's life. Hannah began caring for herself the way she'd once cared for her family. She opened a savings account, finally free from being drained by her parents' bills. She put a deposit on a semi-pro camera, a luxury she'd once thought she didn't deserve. She booked a fall trip to Seattle to photograph the golden leaves, a dream from her college days that had always been sidelined because family needed her. Each choice, no matter how small, was a brick in the foundation of her new life, solid, free, and hers. One rainy afternoon, while sitting in her favorite coffee shop, editing photos for her class, Hannah got a notification from a real estate site. The house at 218 Elm Street had dropped another $30,000, marked with a desperate, owner-seeking urgent sale. She stared at the listing photo. Dark roof tiles, a broken fence, peeling window frames. It used to symbolize duty, pressure, and expectation. Now it was just a house waiting for rescue, and Hannah was no longer its savior. She tapped hide notification, gave a soft smile, and returned to her work. The smile wasn't heavy or bitter, but light, like a breath of freedom. Yet Hannah's rebirth wasn't just about living for herself. She started a blog not to clap back at her family, but to share her story. Posts about breaking free from toxic family dynamics, setting boundaries, and learning to love herself spread widely. Messages poured in from strangers thanking her for voicing their unspoken struggles. "Your story showed me I don't have to sacrifice everything to be loved," one wrote. "You gave me the courage to say no," another said. Each message was a gift, reminding Hannah that she wasn't just reclaiming herself, she was helping others do the same. One day, as she prepared for her first photo exhibit at the art center, Hannah received an email from the legal aid organization she'd contacted. They'd found irregularities in her parents' will and offered to help her file a lawsuit to claim her rights. Hannah sat down, reading the email, weighing her options. She didn't want property or money, she wanted justice to make her family face the consequences of their unfairness. The idea tempted her, but she replied that she'd think it over. Deep down, she knew she didn't need a courtroom to feel whole. She'd already won back what mattered most, herself. Around the same time, Marcus texted, "Your parents' house is down to $350K, still no buyers. Samantha tried getting a loan from some shady outfit, but they shot her down. They're desperate." Hannah didn't respond. She didn't feel glee at her family's struggles, but she didn't feel guilt either. They'd chosen Samantha as their heir, and now they had to live with that choice. One evening, as Hannah walked around Liberty Lake, camera slung over her shoulder, she paused to capture the sunset. Golden orange light pierced bare branches, reflecting on the still water. She snapped the shot, and when she reviewed it, something clicked. She was no longer chained to her past. Her family, the red brick house, and those years of sacrifice were just a chapter, not her whole story. She smiled, tucked her camera away, and kept walking. For the first time, she felt unburdened, as if the world was unfolding before her. But just when Hannah thought she'd found peace, an unexpected letter arrived. One morning, she checked her mailbox and found a familiar blue envelope, her mother's shaky handwriting scrawled across it. She hesitated, then opened it. The letter read, "Hannah, I don't know where to begin. I can't sleep, wondering how to fix this. Your dad's not as strong as he used to be. I don't know how much time we have, but if you're willing, I'm still here." Hannah read it, feeling as if she were peering into a distant memory. She wasn't angry, wasn't sad, but she wasn't ready to reply. She folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer beside unprocessed photos and half-finished drafts. She didn't hate her family, but she no longer had the strength to give without being heard. The letter, however sincere, couldn't erase the scars they'd left. Hannah kept living, creating, healing. She held her photo exhibit at a friend's coffee shop, displaying images that traced her journey: morning light in the park, an elderly woman's frail hands cradling a steaming mug, a pedal on cracked pavement. A middle-aged woman approached, took her hand, and said, "Every photo of yours feels like it's speaking for someone who's been silent too long." Hannah smiled, saying nothing, because she knew it was true. She'd spent years staying quiet to keep the peace, to play the good daughter, hoping love would come if she gave enough. But now, she'd chosen a different peace, the kind that came from choosing herself. Hannah had weathered her darkest days, from silent sacrifices to the sting of betrayal, from cold silence to a public fight to reclaim her voice. Now, standing at the final stage of her journey, she was no longer the girl bound by family duty. She'd found freedom, learned to love herself, and, most importantly, realized that family isn't just blood, it's mutual respect and appreciation. This phase was about looking back, confronting the last fragments of her past, and moving forward with a heart that was light yet resolute, ready for a future unshadowed by old burdens. Each day painted Hannah's life with brighter colors. She began her mornings with a steaming cup of coffee, sitting by her small apartment window, watching sunlight filter through Salem's oak trees. No longer did she startle at bill notifications or desperate texts from her family. Instead, she poured her time into things that made her heart sing: teaching her photography class, editing videos, and writing a blog about breaking free from toxic family dynamics. Her posts spread far and wide, earning hundreds of messages from strangers thanking her for giving them the courage to set boundaries and choose themselves. "Your story showed me I don't have to sacrifice everything to be loved," one wrote. Each message was a gem, reminding Hannah that her journey wasn't just personal healing, it was a beacon for others. But the past never vanishes easily. One morning, Hannah checked her mailbox and found a familiar blue envelope, her mother Denise's shaky handwriting scrawled across it like a vivid memory. She hesitated, her fingers tracing the paper's edge, feeling as if she were touching an old wound. Finally, she opened it. The handwritten lines spoke of her mother's sleepless nights, her father Richard's failing health, and the pain of a fractured family. "I don't know where to start, Hannah," the letter read. "I was wrong not to see all you did. Your dad isn't as strong as he used to be. I don't know how much time we have to fix this, but if you're willing, I'm still here." It ended with a simple plea: "Give me a chance." Hannah sat there, letter in hand, caught between two worlds. Part of her recalled childhood days, her mom's warm hugs, lullabies under dim lamplight, or the times she'd cooked soup for her after long shifts. But a larger part remembered the cold will, the public smear campaign, and the years of sacrifice that went unrecognized. She wasn't angry, wasn't hateful, but she no longer had the strength to dive into another cycle of forgiveness without real change. She folded the letter and tucked it into a drawer beside unprocessed photos and half-finished drafts. She didn't tear it up, didn't reply, didn't rush. The letter needed time to be understood, and Hannah now knew she had the right to take that time. She kept living, refusing to let the letter disrupt the peace she'd fought for. She held her first photo exhibit at a friend's cozy coffee shop, showcasing images that traced her healing: dawn light in the park, an elderly woman's frail hands cradling a warm mug, a pedal on cracked pavement. The turnout was bigger than she'd expected, and when a middle-aged woman took her hand and said, "Every photo of yours speaks for those who've been silent too long," Hannah just smiled. She didn't need to explain, the woman understood. The exhibit wasn't just about sharing art. It was proof she'd reclaimed her voice. While Hannah built her future, the red brick house on Elm Street told its own story of decline. Marcus, her real estate friend, texted an update. Your parents' house is down to 320K, third price cut. Samantha's trying to negotiate with the bank, but they say it's unsalvageable without a big upfront payment. Looks like they're really losing it. Hannah read the message, feeling neither joy nor sorrow, just the stark truth. The house had stood because of her, and without her, it was falling apart. Lorraine, the longtime neighbor, called too, her voice heavy with concern. Hannah, I see Samantha running around, handling paperwork, paying bills. She looks exhausted. Your mom barely leaves her orchid garden, like she's hiding from it all. Hannah listened but felt no pull to act. Lorraine, they'll figure it out, she said, her voice gentle but firm. I'm not the fixer anymore. On a chilly winter day, Hannah strolled around Liberty Lake, camera slung over her shoulder. The golden sunset pierced bare branches, glinting on the calm water. She raised her camera, capturing a moment, a boy running in the distance, his mother's laughter calling after him, her voice clear in the crisp air. Reviewing the photo, Hannah realized something profound. Some things aren't worth holding on to because they were never truly yours. Her family, the red brick house, and those years of sacrifice were just a piece of her past, not her identity. She smiled, packed away her camera, and kept walking, feeling as if the world was opening up before her. But the past has a way of knocking. One evening, as Hannah prepared a lesson for her photography class, her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. She answered, and the voice on the other end stopped her cold. Her father, Richard. Hannah, he said, his voice frail, a far cry from the man who'd once casually told her not to overreact to the will. I know you don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. We were wrong. I didn't see how much you did. The house is slipping away, and I don't know what to do. Samantha, she's trying, but it's not enough. I just want to say I'm sorry. Hannah sat silent, her hand tightening around the phone. Part of her wanted to scream, to ask why they hadn't seen her sooner. But the part that had learned to let go just wanted closure. Dad, she said, her voice steady. Thanks for saying that, but I can't fix this. Not because I don't want to, but because I've done enough. She hung up, not waiting for a reply. The call didn't shake her. She kept working, kept creating. She began writing a short book, not just about her story, but about the lessons she'd learned. That family isn't an unbreakable chain, that real love requires respect, and that sometimes letting go is the only way forward. She was invited by a nonprofit to speak at a mental health conference, sharing how to set boundaries with toxic families. Standing on stage, facing attentive eyes, Hannah felt a new strength, the power of someone who'd walked through darkness to find light. One day, while Hannah was snapping photos in a park, a text from Marcus arrived. Hannah, your parents' house sold for 300K, way below the original price. Samantha and your folks moved somewhere, but no one knows where exactly. Hannah read the message, then looked up at the sunlight streaming through the trees. She felt no regret, no triumph, just peace. The red brick house, once the center of her life, was now a distant memory. Her family, though still bound by blood, no longer dictated her choices. Hannah never returned to that house, never saw her parents or Samantha again. She heard they'd relocated to a small town, renting an apartment, with Samantha picking up part-time work to make ends meet. She didn't know if they'd changed or learned from what happened. It didn't matter anymore. She'd realized family isn't just those who share your name. It's the people who value you, who make you feel seen and chosen. For Hannah, family was now herself, and her new friends, her students, her blog readers, those who saw her not as a fixer, but as a person. Standing by Liberty Lake, camera in hand, she took her final shot of the day, a bird soaring into the sunset sky. She smiled, knowing her story wasn't a tragedy, but an awakening. She'd once believed love and sacrifice would always be rewarded, that blood ties were unbreakable. Now, she knew no one deserves to be taken for granted, not even by family. She'd set boundaries, walked away when needed, and chosen herself without regret. What the future held, reconciliation or permanent distance, Hannah didn't know. But she wasn't afraid. She'd found her true family, herself, and that was enough. Hannah's story is more than one woman's journey to reclaim herself. It's a shining example of the power of self-awareness and courage. From the days of silent sacrifice, carrying her family on her shoulders, to the moment she faced the cold betrayal of the will, Hannah navigated emotions many can relate to. The pain of being unrecognized, the disillusionment when blood proves breakable, and the pure joy of finding freedom within. She once believed love meant unconditional sacrifice, that family was a place to give everything without expecting return. She'd poured sweat, tears, and dreams into keeping the red brick house on Elm Street standing, ensuring her parents and sister Samantha had stability. But the will, with its stark lines leaving everything to Samantha, shattered that belief. It forced Hannah to face the truth. Love can't be one-sided, and family isn't an excuse to lose yourself. Through each phase, from enduring in silence to publicly exposing the truth and finally embracing rebirth, Hannah learned hard-earned lessons. She understood that setting boundaries isn't selfish, but a way to protect your worth. She realized true family isn't just shared blood, but those who cherish your presence, who don't treat your kindness as an obligation. And most crucially, she discovered happiness comes not from others' validation, but from choosing to love and care for yourself. Hannah's ending isn't a fairy tale with a tidy reconciliation or a flashy victory. Her parents and Samantha may never change. The red brick house sold for a pittance, and their family ties may remain a scar. But that's not a tragedy, it's an awakening. Hannah chose to walk away, never looking back, and in doing so, she found a new family. Herself, her friends, her students, and those who read her blog, who saw her as a person, not a savior. Hannah's lesson is a powerful reminder. No one deserves to be overlooked, not even by those closest to them. Setting boundaries, saying no, and choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's how you live a full life. Family isn't a chain binding you to pain. It's where you feel loved, seen, and chosen. And if no one offers that, you still have the greatest family of all, yourself. Her story leaves us with a question. If you were in her shoes, would you stay silent to keep the peace or stand up for your worth? Hannah chose the harder but truer path, and in doing so, she didn't just save herself, she inspired countless others to do the same. She's proof that sometimes letting go is the only way forward, and true freedom begins when you dare to say enough and walk away with your head held high.